Have you ever had to wait almost forever for a video to load online? It could be frustrating, but thankfully Elon Musk is working to end days like that. But like all things, there are downsides to his plan. Let's look at Starlink and the issues it's causing the astronomers. Elon Musk plans to launch 42,000 satellites into orbit over the next 5 decades, a 15-fold increase from the current number of functioning satellites in orbit. This is the concept of Starlink, a vast constellation being built by Elon Musk and SpaceX that aims to provide high-speed, low-latency internet around the globe. This means there will be no more buffering and almost instantaneous internet access. Since many internet solutions require a lengthy network of pricey underground connections, nearly half of the world's population lacks access to the internet. While standard satellite internet can be accessed in such locations, it is instead delivered by a bus-sized spacecraft that has traveled 22,236 miles into orbit around the planet. Due to the distance, the satellite may access areas that cables cannot. However, because that single satellite is designed to serve a large number of users, its data capacity is constrained, which in turn affects connection speeds. And because that signal has to travel far, there's a lot of lag. Elon Musk and SpaceX can help in this situation. No matter where you are in the world, Starlink, a network of internet beaming satellites, is working to connect you to the internet. There is a solid persuasive component for SpaceX. Elon Musk claimed his goal is simply to take a little slice of the global telecommunications market worth $1 trillion annually. If SpaceX is successful, it may earn $30 to $50 billion annually. According to Musk and SpaceX CEO Gwen Shotwell, that money could support the creation of Starlink, Starship, and SpaceX's infrastructure for Mars launches. SpaceX has sent around 2,000 satellites into orbit and aims to launch 12,000 satellites in the next 5 years, with half of them arriving by the end of 2024. Musk aims to increase that number by 30,000, making the total number of satellites orbiting the planet 42,000. Additionally, these satellites will be much closer to Earth, hovering 200 to 400 miles above it in low Earth orbit. By doing this, the connection lag associated with conventional internet satellites is decreased. The need for so many Starlink satellites stems from the fact that they will constantly be moving once in orbit. The issue is that you need a lot of satellites in orbit to make up for the fact that you can't stay in one place above the Earth because you need multiple satellites above at once to serve many customers. Laser beams will be used to connect one satellite to several others, forming the equivalent of the network's backbone. You also need a pizza-sized antenna to get this internet into your home. Any satellite in the sky can be targeted by this phased array antenna, keeping an internet connection in your home. However, the Starlink satellites shine. They seem like bright, moving stars because they reflect sunlight and direct it back toward Earth. Despite how cool that might seem, there are issues with that. When astronomers search the night sky for asteroids or NGO objects that could collide with Earth and perhaps kill us, Starlink satellites are most easily seen just before dawn and after twilight. And when more satellites are launched, there is a greater chance that they will obstruct astronomers' views. We might not have as much time as we would want to find a near-Earth object, thwart it, and stop it from striking Earth if Starlink continues to be a problem for these kind of sky surveys. The wall of satellites could hinder the search of undiscovered planets or even black holes, in addition to spotting dangerous asteroids. Satellite constellations impact the same as spray painting graffiti on a World Heritage Site, but not simply localized graffiti. Graffiti is present all around the planet. The satellites can add a diffuse glow to the night sky's background blackness, in addition to appearing as simple streaks in photos or distinct lights. It's already started. The issue of space debris is raised because there are more chances for satellites to collide with one another or with other satellites when there are a lot of them, and they are in the closest, tightest, densest orbits possible around Earth. These collisions would produce debris clouds that may spend years, decades, or even millennia in orbit around the Earth, and as a result of other satellites colliding with one another or being rendered inoperable by the junk, more debris is produced. The Kessler syndrome, as the issue grows out of control, is its official name. And if we get to that point, space is too dangerous to enter. To be clear, there is very little chance of a runaway Kessler syndrome, but because of the potential severe consequences, scientists are making great efforts to prevent such an event from ever occurring. According to SpaceX, the satellites may automatically veer away from one another to prevent collisions. However, dozens of SpaceX satellites are already malfunctioning and immobile, which might be dangerous. When SpaceX understood it had to act, it did. It developed a satellite known as a dark sat, which is a satellite with all of its shining components covered with an extremely dark, gloomy substance. It also explored adding visors to protect those shiny sections from the ground. However, none of these will completely alleviate the issue until the satellites are veiled like a starship in Star Trek technology that does not exist. And even if it did, the problem is much more serious. Recent ground-based studies of DarkSat in orbit revealed that it was only half as bright as a typical Starlink satellite. This is a significant improvement, but it is still short of what astronomers believe is required. Concerned parties urge the FCC to rein in SpaceX and impose stricter regulations on low Earth orbit, and it could make deploying the 42,000 satellites that are anticipated more expensive and challenging. The International Astronomical Union this week sent a subcommittee of the UN Committee on the Peaceful Users of Outer Space with a condensed version of a report on the effects of these satellites, along with some suggestions to lessen the loss of a clear night sky. However, other astronomers believe the war is already lost. The mechanisms and law that might have allowed us to avoid this, those wheels turned so slowly that by the time we would get any consensus on a policy solution, this is all going to be over, says John Barentine, an astronomer and the director of public policy at the International Dark Sky Association, who helped author the IAU report. I just think that it's a numbers game that astronomy probably cannot win. The number of satellites orbiting the Earth is about to increase by about an order of magnitude, Barentine says, and that makes it increasingly likely that science will be lost. The National Science Foundation and the American Astronomical Society finally produced a report on the situation after more than a year of protest from the scientific community and damage control measures by SpaceX. To offer suggestions for astronomers and satellite constellation operators to reduce further interruptions, it drew on talks among more than 250 experts at the Virtual Satellite Constellations 1 workshop earlier this summer. Only one of the SATCON 1 report's 10 recommendations calls for employing darkening methods by satellite operators. The others advocate positioning the satellites in low orbits, adjusting their orientations in space to reflect less sunlight, finding techniques to limit their tracks from astronomical views, and making their orbital information accessible so that telescopes can be pointed away from them. It is hoped that the issue can be solved by combining strategies from this menu of alternatives. However, the development of mega constellations on satellites may have caused future deterioration of astronomers' ability to observe the night sky unavoidably. It's not just Starlink that is to blame for satellite issues. By launching the worldwide network of hundreds or thousands of satellites, projects like China's Hongyin, Amazon's Kuiper project OneWeb, and others want to compete with SpaceX's business model. Within the next 10 years, 1 million satellites might be orbiting our globe, significantly raising the possibility of space being blocked off for everyone if they all got their way with little to no regulation. Let us know what you think about this development in the comments below.